the next day? I mean, he would have to resign, right? It would be all over the papers. It's absolutely unthinkable, okay? But in Russia, it didn't even make it in the papers. It was just a small line somewhere, okay? It's totally normal. So the point is this. Many immigrants were in that, skilled immigrants, were in that very high social position. And one of the first things they need to learn is how Canadian society works, and in particular, the fact that people are not disrespecting you when they're asking you to treat everybody as equal. Okay? That is a major challenge. Because if I'm used to being in a high social position, and people tell me, well, you make your own photocopies here? What do you mean? Okay? And quite often, I will take that as disrespectful. It's not intended to be in most cases, but again, it's what I mean by figuring out where you fit in society, how do other people see you, and learning how to influence people. Okay? So these would be the messages I want to leave you with. I'm not sure how much time we have left. Okay? We have 10 minutes? Okay, so maybe can we take some questions? Is that possible? I'm sorry? You can pull the flight back from me. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. So, these are definitely, for me, if you, remember the skills that people need to learn are really in sequence. Okay, first they need to learn how to find a job. Okay, where do they fit professionally? Where both geographically, professionally, and in terms of skills. Then they need to learn initiative. Then they need to learn teamwork. Then they need to learn soft skills, salesmanship, leadership, and so on. It's a lifelong learning process. And for me, the number one issue is feedback. Feedback is the biggest challenge because I've seen so many people lose their job because they didn't understand the feedback that they were getting. Okay? So, remember also the networking. Okay? People define themselves as the intersection of a line and a column, and you need to network by line or by column. Okay? And does anybody have questions? Yes?
Test.
Perfect.
Thank you very much. My name is Mahmoud Shirin. I'm working at Costi as a youth settlement worker. Thank you very much for having given me the time here. My question is, when I get a flight from my country at the age of 35 or 36, do I know all these issues in my mind?
No.
So, after coming here, you are giving me this kind of training, and what can I do?
Okay.
Within doing my bed and bread or doing this kind of job? What?
There's two aspects to your question. One is, what do immigrants know when they come to Canada? And two, what can we do about improving that situation? So, let me start with the first question, which is, what do immigrants know when they come to Canada? Because that one is really critical, and this is something that was addressed by the presentation just before I presented, okay, in terms of getting information to Canadians. To immigrants before they come to Canada. So, what is happening? What do immigrants know before they come to Canada? Well, the problem is, what are their sources of information? Typically, immigration consultants. Do immigration consultants tell them the whole story? No. Okay? Hold on. That's not your question. Okay, but hang on. Let me, because this is a question that I know many people have. Okay? Immigration consultants will typically focus on this part. Okay? They will tell people, hey, you can make it big in Canada. And it's true. If you look at the 100 richest people in Canada, 30 of them were born outside of Canada. Okay? But, not everybody who comes to Canada will be in these 30, obviously. Okay? Now, the other source of information is the media. Now, what do the media portray? Well, really, the media are Hollywood movies, right? TV series and stuff like that, okay? So, how many of you live a life similar to Sex and the City? See what I mean? Okay? I know when I did my PhD in California, When I went to California, my idea of California was Charlie's Angels. And I had a rude awakening, because at Caltech, the ratio of men to women was 7-1, okay? So, another source of information is family members, okay? Family members will quite often give you a partial view of the situation, because they don't usually, like, they come from the same country as you do, and so they see things from the same perspective. When I worked for Xerox, every time I had problems, I went to a French lady who had joined Xerox 10 years before I did. Her perspective on teamwork was exactly the same as mine. So when I had problems working in teams, I would go to her. We both agreed Canadians have no clue how to work in teams. Then she gave me advice which reinforced my bad behavior by Canadian standards. Okay? Another source of information is going to be, it's going to be people who go back to their home country on vacation. Okay? Well, who goes back to their home country on vacation? Those who can afford it, first of all. Okay? So obviously, these are people here. People who are here will often go back on vacation after 20 years. How do they behave when they go back home? Just like those at the top. They bring gifts for everybody. Okay? The other thing that happens is Citizenship and Immigration, Canada will give information as well. But a lot of the employees of Citizenship and Immigration Canada are local employees. Okay? So they see Canada from the same vantage point as the local people. They have a bit more knowledge, but not that much more. Okay? So the point, and you also have websites like notcanada.com. I'm sure some of you have heard it. And how do people interpret this information when they're in their home country? They think that you want to keep it all to yourself. You're trying to discourage us from going there, so you can have it all. Okay? So my point is, immigrants, when they come to Canada, have usually a fairly distorted view of the situation, not because they're not trying, but because they don't get the right information, and they do not process it the way it needs to be processed. If I take my own example, when I went to California, the information, once I decided to go to California, if I met somebody who was telling me that LA is full of smog, traffic, and stuff like that, I didn't give them the time of day. If I met somebody who was talking to me about, LA being C-sex and so on, oh yeah, that I wanted to hear. Okay? I would talk to that person for 2 hours. So what happens is when we make the decision to immigrate, we essentially put mental blinders. Okay? Many of you have had that experience. Now, coming back to the second part of your question, what can we tell people? My experience is it's information that needs to be repeated over and over again. When you give people information that doesn't fit their mental view of the world, what typically happens is that information is rejected. Okay? There's no space in their mind for that information. So if my mental image is a bank of drawers. Okay? Imagine you have a bank of drawers. Somebody gives you information, there's no drawer for that information. Where does it end up? The garbage can. Okay? Now I get that information again, a second time. Okay, I'm going to have to create another drawer. So now I create another drawer. And I get some more information. It still doesn't fit. I need to create a second drawer. And so on. And suddenly, eventually the mental bank of drawers now is completely lopsided, and I have to redo it from scratch. And this is what people do. They essentially have to realize that, Canada works according to completely different unwritten rules. Okay? So what can we do? Well, the key thing is to have the information delivered to people in a way that they can process it. How do people process it? Most immigrants process information based on the credibility of the source, and it's a physical person, not a website. Okay? A website means absolutely nothing to a Russian, because anything that's published in Russia was by definition created by the government, and by definition it was wrong. Okay? Or it was faked under the Soviet Union. So many people come from cultures where if you get written information, it doesn't count. I need to get it from a source that I can trust. who can I trust? People from my home country who are in a higher social position than me. Or I can trust someone who's in the same profession and has a degree which is at least equal to mine. The terrible thing I've seen is many Canadian social workers working with immigrants, like they have a Bachelor of Social Work, immigrants have a Master's in Engineering. What happens? They do not believe what this person is telling them. Because there's no way you can teach me something because you're at a lower position in society than I am. Okay? It's one of the biggest challenges. Immigrants I know, because I have a PhD in engineering, I've been asked to speak at many engineering programs, and people go, oh, this is wonderful. And I've said the same thing that their caseworker said, but they believe me because I'm an engineer and I have a PhD. Okay? So this is what I'm talking about. Okay? You need to find people who will who will be willing to make presentations and they come from the same sector. Now you have to manage the question and answer because they all come with their resume at the end, obviously, but it can be very valuable. Okay?
I'm afraid we're out of time. I'm sorry. We have to stop you there. Lionel, thank you so much.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you very much. Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much. Wow. Thank you. Well,
Lionel, I think they liked you.
I'll just say one last thing, okay? Given the work that you do, I will recommend that you look at... I'm going to recommend one book. I've wrote it, so, I apologize for that, but it was really written from the perspective of people helping immigrants, as opposed to immigrants themselves. The title of the book is Recruiting, Retaining, and Promoting Culturally Different Employees. If you want to find it, you go to Indigo or Amazon, and you just search for my name, and you'll find it immediately. Okay. Let me write it down. Hold on a second. Yeah, hold on a second. So. Okay, can everybody read my handwriting? Yes? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Like this? So, recruiting, retaining, and promoting culturally different employees. As I said, I wrote it with HR and settlement agencies in mind. So I hope you'll find it useful. Thank you again for your time and attention.